So God is then something like a divine physician. But suppose that what you are up against is a wonderfully skilled surgeon whose intentions are solely and absolutely good. Then the kinder and more conscientious he is, the more he cares about you, the more inexorably he will go on cutting, in spite of the suffering it may cause you. And if he yielded to your entreaties, if he stopped before the operation was complete, all the pain up to that point would have been so very, very useless. Martin Luther King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." On the night of March 24th, 1832, a dozen men stormed the Hiram, Ohio home where Joseph and Emma Smith were staying. Both were physically and emotionally spent, not only from all the travails of the young church at that time, but also because on this particular evening they had been up caring for their two adopted twins, born 11 months earlier on the same day that Emma had given birth to and then lost their own twins. No sooner had he begun to doze than he heard his wife give a terrifying scream and found himself being torn from the house and very nearly being torn limb from limb. Cursing as they went, the mob who had seized him were swearing to kill Joseph if he resisted. One man grabbed him by the throat until he lost consciousness from lack of breath. He came to only to overhear part of their counsel as to whether he should be murdered. It was determined that for now he would simply be stripped naked, beaten senseless, tarred and feathered, and left to fend for himself in the bitter March night. Stripped of his clothing, fighting off fists and tar paddles on every side, and resisting a vial of some liquid, perhaps poison, which he shattered with his teeth as it was forced into his mouth, he miraculously managed to fight off the entire mob and eventually made his way back to the house. In the dim light, his wife thought the tar stains covering his body were blood stains, and she fainted at the sight. I now quote directly from the prophet Joseph's record. "By morning I was ready to be clothed again. This being the Sabbath morning, the people assembled for meeting at the usual hour of worship, and among them came also the mobbers of the night before," and then he names them. "With my flesh all scarified and defaced, I preached to the congregation as usual, and in the afternoon of the same day baptized 3 individuals. Now, unfortunately, the adopted twins, growing worse from the exposure and the turmoil of that night, both died the following Friday. With my flesh all scarified and defaced, I preached to the congregation as usual." I'm sure we would leave such troublesome issues alone if they would only leave us alone. As a rule, we usually do not seek the bitter cup and the bloody baptism. But sometimes they seek us. The fact of the matter is, God does draft men and women into the spiritual warfare of this world. God wants us to be stronger than we are.